Hey everybody, today we're going to be writing and solving equations again. Your EQ for the day is what is unravel and how can I use it to solve problems? The word unravel itself means to undo or to untangle. Math unravel is a memory device. It's spelled like this. You've probably seen the poster hanging on my wall in my classroom. All Math Unravel is simply a memory device to help you remember the problem-solving process. Each letter represents one step in the process that helps us break down and solve word problems. Let's look at Unravel in all the individual pieces. The U in Unravel stands for underline the question. Now predict what you think you need to do in order to solve the problem. Third, you're going to read the question. That may seem a little weird being the third step, but trust me, I think it'll make a difference in your problem-solving abilities if you'll do this. The first A is, are the clue words circled? I do this when I'm reading the question. The second A is, apply the steps that you chose to solve the problem. Verify your answer. Is it reasonable? This just means to ask yourself, does your answer make any sense based on the context of the problem? E is eliminate wrong answers. And lastly, let the answer stand or rework the problem based on your double checking. Remember, we always double check our work in algebra. Let's take a minute now and do an example problem so I can take you through the unravel process. Step number 1 was U, underline the question. So I'm not going to read the problem right now. I'm literally going to skim through it until I find what I'm being asked to do. Usually it's at the end. So in this case, how long did your friend use the rented truck is the question that I'm being asked. The end step says, predict what I think I need to do to solve the problem. Well, how long is the question that's being asked? So I think I'm being asked to find a time, a length of time. So I'm going to write that right here. That's our unknown quantity in this particular problem. It's the piece they want me to find. So I can use that, call that my variable. Time, I could call it X, or H for hours, or T for time. Pick a variable that makes sense to you. I'm going to use T for time, because that's what I like. The next step is to read the problem. You helped a friend move a short distance recently. The friend rented a truck for $15 an hour and rented a dolly for the whole day for $5. Your friend paid a total of $80 for the rental. How long did your friend use the rented truck? Okay, so now that I know what the problem says all together, I can circle those key words. The key information that I found was $15 an hour. This word right here is also a key word. And then right here, the dolly for the whole day for $5. It's a lot of words, but it's a pretty critical phrase. And lastly, a total of $80. These are all important because they're going to comprise the pieces of my equation. $15 an hour, there's my time piece. There's the variable that I'm going to be looking for. So I'm going to label that as T because I know that the time is what I'm looking for. I also notice right down here that the total, the word total, that usually means to put an equal sign in your equation. The word and usually means to add. If I have $2.20, I would add them together to get my total. Okay, so now I'm going to apply the steps. I'm on the, looks like the 5th step now. To apply the steps, well, I know I have to write an equation finding T. So let's basically read and write what the problem told me to write. It says $15 an hour right here. So I know that $15 times every hour is going to be represented by 15t, 15 times t. And I already know that means to write a plus sign. And we're going to add on the dolly for the whole day for $5. It's just a $5 charge because it doesn't say $5 per hour or per anything else. Then I keep reading. Your friend paid a total, that tells me to write the equal sign, and then it just flat gives me the 80. So now I can go through the process. I'm still on step A. But now I need to go through the process to find t. I did really great writing an equation, but that's not what it asked me to do. It asked me to find how long they used the rented truck. So to solve this equation, I know that I need to find out what t is. That means I have to solve for t or isolate t, get it all by itself. So I'm just going to run through that process that we learned a few days ago and think, well, what's close to the t that needs to be moved? The constants move first, so the opposite is a -5, leaving me with 15t equals 75. My t has not yet been isolated because there's a 15 being multiplied by it. So I know the opposite of multiplying by 15 is dividing by 15. Therefore, t equals 5. I don't want to leave my number naked, so I better make sure that I put some units on there. T referred to time, in this case, hours. So my answer is 5 hours. V is verify your answer. Is it reasonable? So 5 hours. Would it be reasonable to rent a truck for 5 hours for moving a short distance? I say yes, it is. That does make sense. If I had gotten an answer like 592 hours, I might need to reconsider my math process, my math working. E is eliminate wrong answers, but since it's not multiple choice, I don't have any answers to eliminate. So lastly, let my answer stay or rework it. I'm going to let my answer stay because it seems reasonable based on what I've done, and there's no E's to eliminate. Let's do a second example. Step 1 is underline the question. How many adult tickets were sold? Predict what you need to do to solve the problem. In this case, it looks like I'm finding the number of tickets. So specifically, it's looking for adult tickets. That's my variable. That's the unknown quantity in this problem. So adult tickets, I'm going to set that equal to A. That seems like a reasonable variable because A represents adults. The next step then is to read the problem. At the local movie theater, children's tickets cost $2.50 each and adults' tickets cost $4.50 each. If 117 children's tickets were sold and the total sales were $733.50, how many adult tickets were sold? Looks like there's a lot of information in there. So let's do that next step and make sure that the clue words are circled. I want to make sure that as I'm circling those key words, I'm thinking about what they mean for writing an equation. Children's tickets cost $2.50 each, so I would represent that as 250C. Oh, I missed a key word, look at that. And, remember that and means you're probably going to be adding on. That would be a plus sign. The next piece reads adult tickets for $4.50 each, so I would represent that as 450A. And then I saw that word total down there. There's my equal sign. And then right here, it actually gives me the total amount. I think I'm set to write my equation and do that next step, which is apply the steps. My equation is probably going to look like this. $2.50 for all of the children's tickets and $4.50 for each of the adult tickets gives me a total of $733.50. This makes sense because this is a dollar amount, $2.50 times each child ticket. That would give me a dollar amount when I got done multiplying. And I'm adding it to another dollar amount here, and I'm going to have an end result of a lot of dollars here. So my equation makes sense. Dollars plus dollars equals dollars. It's something you always want to check when you're writing your equations, because sometimes we goof up and we might accidentally write a question that says, we might write an equation that says dollars plus teddy bears equals dollars, and that doesn't always make sense. So be careful to double check that. Let's finish this by actually solving this problem so we can figure out how many adult tickets were sold. There's one important piece of information in here that I can use. And that's really good because when I look at this equation, I think, uh-oh, I have two variables, and I haven't learned how to solve equations that have two variables in them yet. But we're in luck because the problem gave us 117 as a value to use. 117 children's tickets. Remember, when algebra problems hand you information on a silver platter, it's a good idea to take it and use it. So we're going to plug 117 in right here in place of C. If I know how many children's tickets were sold, then I shouldn't be using a variable. So let's change it. 250 times 117 tickets would give me the dollar amount that was brought in for children's tickets. I don't know how many adult tickets. Again, that's what the question is asking. So I'm going to bring down all the rest of the information. Now I can start doing the math. 250 times 117 is $292.50. I'm bringing down the rest of the information. And I notice that A is still not isolated. I haven't solved my equation yet. So I'm going to keep going. Find my constant and move it, if there is one, by doing the opposite. Remember to do the opposite on both sides to keep your equation balanced. 450A is all that I'll bring down on this left-hand side, because remember, 292.50 minus itself leaves you with 0. On the right-hand side, when I do this math, I get an answer of 441. A is not yet isolated, so let's try to do one more step. The opposite of multiplying by 450 would be dividing by 450. Again, I'm going to do it on both sides to keep it balanced. 450 divided by itself leaves me with A equals 98. The 98 comes from this piece right here. When I do 441 divided by 450, I get 98. 98 tickets. So now I need to verify my answer. Is it reasonable and does it make sense? Would it be possible to sell 98 tickets during a day? I think it would. So I'm going to let my answer stay. Again, you'll notice I skipped E because it's not multiple choice, so there's nothing to eliminate. For this problem, I'm not going to specify each part of the unravel process, although you'll notice I am going to be using it as I go through and show it to you. The question I'm being asked is, what is the width of the garden? So I know that I'm looking for W. Got to figure out what that is. So Jim has a garden in the shape of a rectangle. The ratio of the length of the rectangle to the width is 5:4. That's pretty important information. If the perimeter of the garden is 180 feet, then what is the width? So they've given me lots of important information. But as I read this problem, I noticed it's not going to be as easy to set up as our first two examples. For this one, the first piece of information that I have going here is that ratio piece. The ratio of the length to the width, that would look like this from your middle school days. A ratio would look like this. Well, they're telling me that ratio is 5:4. So I don't know how long it is or how wide it is. But however, whatever dimension it is I'm using here, I know that the length is 5 times that amount. And I know the width would be 4 times that amount. So it looks like in this first part of the problem, I'm not looking for W yet. I'm going to have to figure out what the multiplier is, what that X is, before I can move on. But that's no problem because I already know how to solve perimeter problems. I know that I have two 5X's in this problem, one on top and one on bottom, because those both represent the lengths of the rectangle. For perimeter, I would add on the widths. I have two 4X's, one on the right and another one on the left. Remember, if you add up all four sides, you get perimeter. That's what this expression represents. That's adding up all four sides to get perimeter. The equal sign is the to get part, and the perimeter is represented by 180 because the problem told me it was 180. Now this is no problem. I know how to solve this. First, I can go through and do the math that I was told to do. So 2 times 5x leaves me with 10x. 2 times 4x leaves me with 8x. There's no math to do over here, so I just bring everything down. I notice that 10x and 8x are like terms, so I'm going to combine them. 10x plus 8x is 18x. Bring down, bring down. X is not alone yet, so let's do the opposite of multiplying by 18. 18 divided by 18 is 1, so I'm left with simply x equals 10. If I do the math on the right-hand side, then I get 180 divided by 18 is 10. But I have to be really, really careful here. X equals 10 is great, but when you look back up here, remember that the width is not equal to x. The width is 4 of those x's. So I have to go one more step to make sure that I've finished my problem. Width is equal to 4x. So if I know what x is, I'll plug it in and use it. The width is going to be 40 feet. Does this answer make sense? Could you have a garden that is 40 feet in width? Sure, I think it makes perfect sense. So there's no, there's no answers to eliminate, so I believe I'm done. I'm going to let my answer stay. Now take a moment to go back and write your questions in your summary. When I look back over the notes, I notice there are 5 major chunks, so make sure that you write 5 questions. Once you're done, you can flip over to the back and write your summary. If you still happen to have a little room on this page, you could write your summary there as well.